Hi guys, so welcome to today's video. You're a little bit seeing a bit more of my room today because we're on the R3 on there, which is obviously full frame compared to the R10, which we're actually doing a review of, which is an aps-c camera. It usually sits where you are right now. So what we're doing in today's video is we are going through the specs of the R10. We're going to look at a couple of basic images I've taken today with the R10, but there will be a more in-depth video coming afterwards with a more in-depth review of the images in closer detail. This is just to show my preliminary sort of looking at what I found with the camera in the woods today, where I've been shooting with the R10 with my 500mm EF lens. And once I've gone through all those, I'll let you know my initial thoughts of the camera, and we'll go from there. So let's head into the tech specs right now. Okay, so here we have the Canon R10. This is a camera I've owned since launch pretty much, but it's spent its whole life in the small rig cage, pointing at my face, doing all my videos. So I haven't actually used it for any photos. So a few of you guys have been asking my opinion on the R10 and how it works with different lenses and stuff. So I thought what I'd do is, and now the camera shake's done, I'm going to pop the R3 in place of this for now, so pretty much wasting the abilities of that camera a little bit, but that'll be replacing this, so I can do some videos on the R10 for you guys to show you some things that are good with it, some things that are bad with it, etc, etc. As you can see from it, is a very small designed camera. It's a little bit smaller than the R7, which already is quite small. That's why I quite like actually having this small rig cage on it, because it extends the size of it, especially on the grip side here. It makes the grip a lot wider around here, so someone with big hands like me, it's actually quite nice. It actually gives it a bit more shape. This is quite a narrow grip. Even the R7 is probably about as wide as it is here with the cage on there. Things I don't like is your card is kept down here behind the battery. You also have this absolutely tiny battery. This is the LP-E17. Absolutely fine if you're taking photos with the camera, but if you're doing video, especially 4K, what I was finding is, before I had a dummy battery in here, because I just have it in the same place all the time plugged into the mains when I'm doing video, is on 4K this was lasting 10 minutes on battery, which is just not really very good. Also, because it's so small, all the buttons and everything are all compressed. So if you compare even to what have I got next to me here, so that's a 1D Mark IV, because it's a lot wider here, everything's nicely laid out in a row. Because this is so small, they've had to bring it down across. So if you're used to a Canon camera, you're used to everything being linear along here, but to get used to where these are here is actually quite a bit of a pain, actually more of a pain than I thought it was going to be. The AF is absolutely fine where that is there, the top hat's fine where it is there. It's just really quite hard to get used to it, and the fact you don't have a dial here, which I know this is common on the sort of more entry-level cameras, so that's not something I'm going to complain about too much, but I do always prefer a dial on there, just for when I'm reviewing photos and stuff. It's a little bit easier. But you do have your dials up here to change your you can set this to shutter speed and stuff like that up here, and your aperture. You've got your on-off button there and there. You got your record button up here, which is absolutely fine where that is there. It's nice, and for me anyway, it's nice and reachable moving across the top. All your different modes across the top here. I always have mine in manual. You have got the new generation hot shoe. It comes with a little cover. I've lost about 6 of those now. So I did use the one off this actually for the R3 for a bit, and I lost that one, so I haven't got one of these on here. But this will always have the Rode wireless mic part on here, and it lives indoors, so it's never really a problem. You've got your tiny little flash up on here. I would never advise using a flash built into the camera unless you really have to. Screen, really nice screen on here. I don't know, so on there everything's where you expect it to be. Everything's touch screen, so you can go across and pick when you need anything and go scrolling over to everything like that. So really nice there. Vary angle obviously as well, like you're used to. This got to be careful, it's got the small rig cage, it's kind of stopping it from doing certain movements, but that's nice. Sits on there very neatly. You've got your menu button up top. You've got HDMI. Now it is only a HDMI mini. You've got USB-C, which you can charge off if you need to. But say for this, I'm using just to my hand here, I'm using a dummy battery which I got off Amazon to charge this up usually. You've got your mic in and you've got your remote on the side. At the front, because some of these aps-c lenses don't have the AF switch actually on the lens, it's on here, so you've got your autofocus and manual focus button there, and then I've got my EF adapter on there. This doesn't have the curtain that comes down, so you do have to be careful to make sure you don't pop your finger on there or put any dust on the sensor itself. As for specs, you've got dual pixel AF2, so it has got all your eye tracking, everything like that you'd expect your mirrorless camera to have. 15 frames per second with mechanical shutter, or 23 frames per second on electronic. ISO, all up to 32,000 ISO. I probably would never recommend going anywhere near that high, but it can do it if you need to. 24.2 aps-c sized sensor, can shoot 40k up to 60p. I would recommend going down to 30. You seem to get a little bit more of a cleaner image from what I've seen on there. Obviously you've got the EVF on the back, tiny little EVF on here. I find it actually quite hard using it because it is so small, but that is 2.36 million dot with a 60 to 120 fps selectable refresh rate. So you've got your Digit X processor, same, which is in the 1DX Mark III, and the R7 as such, like that. But yeah, overall that is the specs and the overall look around of the R10. So only 2 images today, just because with the weather, everything we're having at the moment in Essex, it's not easy to get photo of wild birds and stuff like that flying in the woods. But this bird is a very small bird, very far away, and surprisingly and pleasantly surprising to me is the autofocus picked on it straight away and tracked it. And this was for a very long time the base mirrorless camera that Canon did. Obviously you've got the R50 now and the R100, which are below this, but for a while this was the base one, and I'm actually shocked at how good the autofocus is actually on this camera. Now I was using my 500mm EF lens Mark 1 with the adapter on, worked flawlessly as you'd expect it would do, and just tracked this bird perfectly. And the colours, absolutely great, the image quality, amazing. The fact you've got that crop as well, the 1.6 times aps-c sensor, it brings you even closer to the wildlife. And this is honestly a really shockingly, surprisingly good photo. I was obviously thinking that this is, a fifth of the cost of the R3, and you're getting really good image quality from it. It's still the same megapixels, and the tracking, I say, works very well, way better than what I remember the R7 working, just from this one here. But we'll look at the next one to explain the autofocusing a bit more. So this one here on the face of it isn't an amazing photo at all, and the means of it, you've got loads of branches in the way of the kite here, which is a big bird flying toward, sort of in front of where the sun is, which is why it's a bit blown out as well. But this is flying between trees, and this is all these lines here you see are branches. Now the autofocus picked up the kite, tracked it through all the trees, even when it wasn't visible, tracked it past where the tree was going to be, and then as it came out the other side, and was still tracking it. And this is one of the best experiences I have ever had with an AF system on a mirrorless camera. And this is absolutely unbelievable for me to say, but this is autofocus, in my opinion, I don't know why, but it's better than it was on the R7 when I had that. Now I will be doing a video comparing these two cameras, the R10 and the R7, so maybe now I'm used to using a mirrorless camera more and finding it easier to get the most out of them. But this was absolutely amazing to use. I just looked at where the kite was, pressed the shutter, the back button focus, it tracked it through everything, and as you can see, the bird is actually sharp, but you've just got loads of trees in the way, which ruins the photo. So if the trees weren't there, it would have been a really nice sharp photo, but this is their entry-level £1,000 camera, and this is absolutely one of the best hands-down experiences I've had with Canon's autofocus system on mirrorless cameras. So as you can see, from the imagery, especially the last photo of the kite, not the best image in the world, but I took it and edited it for the purpose of showing you how sticky the autofocus is. Say that was through trees and kind of just about sort of get the outlines of the branches and everything, but that was not an easy shot for the process to focus on the bird and then track it, and that was tracking it all the way through the foliage, which was absolutely amazing. It's actually one of the better mirrorless experiences I've had with any mirrorless camera. I don't think I ever had that experience with the R7, so really impressed with how this camera actually performed. This is the first time I've ever used this camera for shooting. I've only ever used it for recording purposes as my main camera that sits here and films me. So really actually impressed the first time there. The only real negative for me is the fact that it is so small, it just feels like you are just going to break it constantly. It's so small that my little finger actually doesn't actually sit on the actual hand grip itself. It actually sits freely. It does that on the R7 as well, to be fair to the R7. But the actual image quality, the autofocus, everything that really matters about a camera, generally actually quite impressive for the money. When I bought this was actually cheaper than it is now. It was $899 when I bought it. I think I actually paid $899 with the 14 to 35 or whatever the kit lenses that it comes with, and now they're £1,000 on their own, so they're a little bit more than that. They're getting dangerously close to what I paid for the R7, which was $1349. But I think even for that $999, the quality of actual image you get, and say the way the processor works, and the autofocusing especially, was a massive shock, and actually I think works incredibly well. My worry will be when I take it out a little bit more and try and get a bit more out of it is battery life is a big concern with this really small battery that it's got in there. I'm quite concerned at how long that's actually going to last. I'm obviously going to use my trick of keeping the display screen facing inside the camera itself rather than out. And what that tends to do is that allows for the camera itself not to use as much power, because it's not constantly got that screen running or checking if it should be turning the screen on with the sensor on the back. So that tends to give me a bit more battery, especially the R3, the R6 before, and definitely the R7. What I want to really do with this is to move this forward and dust the R7 off and do a little bit of comparison between the R7 and this. Now the R7 is now $1499, so it's £150 more than when I paid for it. So it's £500 more than what this is now. And is it £500 more with the camera? Obviously it's got a lot more megapixels, 32 instead of 24. Speed wise though, they're not massively dissimilar, especially on mechanical shutter. And I would, with these, the R7 and this, I would only shoot mechanical shutter personally, just because the rolling shutter is so spectacularly bad on both cameras that you're just going to risk destroying your imagery. And it's still 15 frames a second. It's still a very fast camera. On mechanical, you just get that really weird clunking noise as the shutter sound, but works absolutely fine in mechanical shutter, and then you won't get any rolling shutter at all. So that's how I would recommend shooting with one of these if you do have it. If you want to risk it with an electronic, by all means, it's your camera at the end of the day, but you are going to get horrific rolling shutter if you do shoot with that mode. Which I can demonstrate at some point when I do the sort of longer form video. But I think the next one's probably going to be comparing it to the R7. I can also do, obviously, I've got a request already to test this camera on my 300mm 500 with the older zoom lenses, and the imagery you've had today is on the 500mm, so you've got a little bit of idea how it works. And the autofocus, in my opinion, worked absolutely flawlessly, as I said a few times now. So there will be a few videos coming out on this, just so I can get them through, and I can pop this back where the R3 is and bring the R3 back as my getting into my main camera coming into the summer when it gets a bit lighter. So let me know if you got the R10. Let me know what your thoughts of it are, obviously. Let me know if there's anything you want me to look into with the R10 while I've got it out to test review. And I can try and get some videos or add them into videos I've already got planned in my head currently with the R10. So if you enjoyed this video, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps massively with bringing the channel up. And if you've liked the content and you're not subscribed, drop a subscribe and you'll see more content as it comes through. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See you soon. Goodbye.